So I'm going to talk, that's a little bit about DMS. I didn't get into all the details, but really we're talking about a tiered management system. And when we talk about the tiers, we're talking at the bottom with the operator, going up to the supervisor, going up to the various levels of management. And I wanted to talk about how, because you can do this without Shoplogix. People have been doing this for many years. People have been doing it in automotive, through Lean, the Toyota production system. Toyota pioneered this concept of an Obeya room, which is a room dedicated to daily meetings, and it's covered with paperwork that's laid out in a very orderly fashion on the walls. It has all the KPIs and the actions. This has been done many times, and it's very effective. Daily management can be very successful in a manual method, but Shoplogix can really elevate that system by tying everything together. First of all, like obviously, it collects the machine data in real time, so it reduces the amount of data collection you have to do. So there's a benefit right off the bat, just with the data collection portion. But at the same time, you'll know exactly how long the machine has been idle. So it's not just the data collection portion of it, but it's the accuracy of that data. And using visual dashboards with distinctive colors, different roles, it's easy to see, what's going on at a glance, and you can react quickly. So it drives that reaction part and the action part before it starts to get, collected on a piece of paper. And secondly, Shoplogix is tailored to fit. It can be tailored a little bit you can take different pieces of it and put it into different aspects of your DMS. So we have specific dashboards designed for daily meetings at different levels. And Shoplogix has alerts. We have digital and on functionality to ensure these escalations happen when needed. So it's flexible enough, the system is flexible enough to be the building block for a daily management system if you don't even have one, or to add value to a current DMS workflow that you already have. So I'm going to go through those three sort of roles, and after that I'm going to jump into a little bit of a demo so you can see some of the screens that we have and how to use them, how the data flows from operator to supervisor through the tiers in the different meeting levels. So from the operator, we have obviously we're displaying the real-time machine status, so an operator can see if they're winning or losing. So we use colors to identify a normal or an abnormal condition. If it's green, process is running fine. There's nothing required of the operator. Ideally, if they're having a good day, they should see all green. But if there's some red, they can see the impact of that on their process. So the goal is clear. The operator can focus on what they have control over, namely doing the value-added work. They're usually the only ones in the building that a customer is paying for. Everything else is overhead and waste. We only need to display what's important to the operator. And by seeing their impact on the process and the target achievement, they'll be able to adjust their behavior, maybe work smarter, and provide some ideas for improvement. So even if they have issues at the shop floor, at the machine that they don't have control over, the machine breakdowns, for example, or material handler not coming in time and delivering material, there's an impact in that they can try to respond quicker. They can alert someone and basically have someone action that so that it can happen quicker next time. So if that's constantly a problem, they can provide some feedback on that. So it drives that culture of improvement right at the shop floor. And it creates a feedback loop where the information supplied from the floor is going to flow up to those higher KPIs. So, how often do we set our operators up for failure? Is the equipment old? Is it falling apart? Are the components not being delivered? Is the process work not designed for ergonomics? This is where the operator is empowered to identify the problems that they struggle with. They can tell us the reasons for the downtime, but more importantly, they can escalate with and-on calls. They can alert the supervisor, maintenance, material handling before a small problem becomes a bigger problem. And what's really important, the reason we start with the operator is because if there's no engagement here, if there's no interaction, the rest of the meetings are not going to have enough value-added information. It's not going to have enough granular information in order to act on it. So you'll still be asking questions when you get to these higher level meetings. So when we think of a supervisor, we're talking about a supervisor, a shift lead, a team lead, work cell leader. They're responsible for a larger area than the operator. They're not necessarily making the part. Sometimes they are. They're not necessarily working on the part every day, but they need to know their mind is being pulled in different directions. Their attention is always getting pulled. They're running around trying to solve problems all day long. So what we want to do is alert them to abnormalities. So using visual cues, the supervisor should be able to see from 10 or 20 feet away if there's an issue. That's the essence of visual management, identifying the abnormalities. So if a supervisor or manager is walking by, or even if they're like right beside the machine, they'll be able to look at that screen and get an idea of what's been happening, what's happening right now, and what's been happening, earlier in the shift that might have led to the situation. And of course, using an and-on or alerts, supervisor, they can be alerted even when they're tied up elsewhere or if they're not even in the building. The goal here is that they're able to get there and react quickly and put some actions in place. It saves a little bit of a step because the supervisor is already prepared to tackle the issue. They have a good understanding what's happening before they get to the area based on what they're seeing on the visual displays, the reasons, the comments, and their own knowledge of the process. So they can be prepared with questions for the operator, not just what happened, but, oh, is it, that cylinder again? Let's make sure maintenance is involved. So they're already kind of armed to assist solve the problem. So they come asking the right questions. Then they can put in a temporary fix and then figure out what a permanent solution is. And of course, at the end of the shift, they'll be able to have a record of what happened. So even if they're pulled away for a couple hours working on something, everything else is still going. The operators are still doing their work. They're still entering information. So they can review their targets at the end of the day or at the beginning of the next day and see why the processes are under or overperforming, and they can address that with some corrective actions. So this allows them to come prepared, gathering all this information. So when they get to that next level, that production meeting or the higher level tiered meetings, tier 3, tier 4, they only have to highlight the key issues that require the support. From a management level, I really love this picture. We have 3 guys straight out of the GQ magazine, no safety glasses, probably no safety shoes, a white shirt that's probably never seen any oil on it. And they're pointing at something, so they're extremely interested in solving this problem. So typical example of a manager, apparently, but just a great picture to show you maybe what not to do from a safety point of view. But the one good thing about this picture, it is showing that management has a role on the shop floor with driving this daily management process. So it's really management's role to configure the system, right? To say, okay, you guys need to have a daily meeting in the morning, a shift handover with your other supervisor. I want you to spend 3 to 5 minutes talking to your operators before they start work. It doesn't mean the manager has to lead every meeting. It just means they need to create that structure and ensure that the reviews are happening at all the levels. And by using Shoplogix, that information will be available at all the different levels, and management just needs to ensure that communication is happening. And when I talk about management, we have plant managers, we have ops managers, we have different words for all the different managers, production managers. So it really includes everyone that is really responsible for these different larger areas. And what this does, it drives up to that daily production meeting, which is typically the one primary meeting at the management level. People talk about a tier 1 meeting at the operator level, tier 2 meeting at the process area level. Let's say you have an assembly area or a welding area. Your tier 2 meeting might be just for the assembly area, but your tier 3 meeting would be assembly and welding together. Now, depending on the size of your plant, you might only have 1 meeting, or you might have 5 tiers. So it all depends on the size of the organization. But what's important is that those operator interactions, the daily startup meetings, the huddles, they should be designed so that the information flows up to the daily production meeting. And those critical decisions can be reviewed with a cross-functional team. So not everything has to be reviewed, but just the critical decisions where you need someone from scheduling, or you might need someone from maintenance. The goal here is to have those representatives from various functions in one place: quality, maintenance, scheduling, logistics, so that those final countermeasures can be addressed with the whole team and the right people that can answer those problems. And of course, this can lead to other focused meetings. You might have just a maintenance meeting where they look at equipment failures or equipment uptime, or just a quality meeting where you might look at just the quality of all the parts. And that could be a longer term meeting where you might do that monthly, so you have a larger data set to look at. Again, all these projects, they should feed back into the daily management meeting so that the progress can be tracked. So if maintenance has a goal to reduce their downtime on certain pieces of equipment, that should be translated to a daily metric that can be reviewed. That meeting really should almost be called an accountability meeting, because at this point, when you're doing that meeting, there shouldn't need to be a lot of discussion, because of the data flow from the previous levels really should flow up to that meeting. And it's more about making sure that the correct actions are in place, that they're being followed up on, and that they're being completed, and just holding people accountable to doing what they agreed to do.